we see a very lovely picture of the first stage of Mary Ward's life. The little child has left her bed and taken the first steps towards the open space of life. The first word Mary uttered was Jesus, after which she didn't speak again for several months. Her first steps coincided with her first word. The name Jesus became the path of her life. In fact, the many journeys in the life of Mary Ward were made always in the ambit of that name. Her life was a response to the call expressed in the name of Jesus, and Mary Ward remained all her life on this path. Born into a Yorkshire Catholic recusant family in 1585, Mary Ward was remarkable for being one of the first women to believe that women should be actively involved in the apostolic life of the Catholic Church. However, initially she opted for the strictest form of contemplative religious life, determined to give herself totally to God. For this, she went to Saint Omer in Flanders, where she joined the Poor Clare order as a lay sister. When God revealed to her that a life of prayer and obscurity behind a convent wall was not what she was called to, she returned to London in 1609. Here, with a group of like-minded young women, she engaged in apostolic work, disregarding the strict laws against the Catholics at the time. Later that same year, Mary realized that God was calling her to some form of religious life more to His glory. To discern what that might be, she left London for Flanders with her young companions and founded her first house at Saint Omer. In 1611, while at prayer, enlightenment came to her and she heard clearly the words, "Take the same of the society," by which she understood the Society of Jesus founded by St. Ignatius of Loyola. The rest of her life was spent in developing a congregation of religious women on the Ignatian model. For this, she needed and repeatedly failed to gain papal approval. To the papal authorities, a congregation of apostolic, unenclosed, self-governing women was unthinkable at a time when the reforms of the Council of Trent had forbidden new religious congregations and confined religious women to enclosure. Had she been prepared to compromise and accept a form of enclosure, Mary might have obtained papal approval. However, she would not compromise and preferred to face the dissolution of her congregation, imprisonment, the imputation of heresy and disgrace, rather than abandon her conviction that there is no such difference between men and women, that women may not do great things, and I hope in God it will be seen that women in time to come will do much. She died during the English Civil War on 30th January 1645. She was buried in the Anglican churchyard of Oswaldwick, just outside York. The the same Christ who called the fishermen of Galilee and the 17th century Yorkshire girl calls us each day to have courage and follow Him within the circumstances of our own life. Mary Ward wrote, "Remember, God being the end of all your actions, and therein you will find great satisfaction, and think all things easy and possible." She dared to dream the impossible, and it came to be true, though not in her time. In 1877, the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary, as it was then known, was at last approved by the Church, but not with the full Ignatian constitutions for which Mary Ward had struggled. That had to wait another century until the reforms of the Second Vatican Council encouraged religious to return to the charism of their founders. It took another century before her sisters were at last able to take the same of the society. Finally, we were able to get the name Congregation of Jesus, the name which Venerable Mary Ward always wanted for her congregation, along with full constitutions of the Society of Jesus in the General Congregation of 2002. Venerable Mary Ward was led into paths unknown for women of her time by her attentiveness to the movements of the Spirit and her experience of discerning love. Mary Ward, led by the Spirit, believed that women should not be afraid to take new paths in the service of the Church and be open and ready to respond to the signs of the times where the need is the greatest. The name Jesus illustrates more than anything else not just her first word, but the sense of the intimacy with Christ that was a feature of Mary Ward's life. Jesus is the basic word, the most important and supportive foundation and the symbol of Mary Ward's life. In her later years, she headed and concluded each letter with this word, "May Jesus have you in His keeping." This is indicative of her constant companionship with Christ, even to the last word she uttered on her deathbed. It is important for us to recall that the spiritual formation she received was mostly at the hands of the members of the Society of Jesus, often resident in the houses where she stayed for a considerable time. Mary Ward was a woman of heroic virtue who wanted to secure a better role for women in the Church and in society. Pope Urban VIII described her as a woman of great prudence and of extraordinary courage and powers of mind, but what is much more, a holy and great servant of God. In the 20th century, Pope Pius XII spoke of her as that incomparable woman given to the Church by Catholic England in the darkest and the bloodiest hour. And in 1985, on the 400th anniversary of her birth, Pope John Paul II said of her, "This great woman, who knew so well how to harmonize the demands of her life as a faithful member of the Church with the new requirements of the age in which she lived." He further stated that Christ did not fail Mary Ward. No matter how great were the difficulties which she had to undergo, ill health, dangerous journeys, imprisonment, above all, being misunderstood even by important people within the church. In all this, she never lost her trust and good humor. And we see how fruitful her life has been, all because she built her whole life on the friendship of Jesus. At present, there are two branches of her institute, the Congregatio Jesu and the Institute of the Blessed Virgin Mary, also known as the Loreto Sisters, founded in Ireland from York in 1821. These two remaining branches of Mary Ward's Institute are in the process of becoming one.